I want to let you guys know that we got notification from our legal counsel that she's caught in traffic and we won't start the meeting until she arrives. So we're waiting for that. Good evening, everybody. I call the meeting of the Board of Directors of the Highland Hills Park and Recreation District to order. Nicole, will you please do roll call?
Mr. Blair?
Here.
Mrs. Grosh? Here. Mrs. Gutierrez?
Here.
Mr. Hald?
Present.
Mrs. Morales?
Here.
This is a special meeting, and the stated purpose of this special meeting is to demonstrate to our public and community that the board will have real conversations and openly discuss board topics. This includes issues related to public health and public correspondence. Golf leagues are a big part of our commitment to healthy programs for our citizens.
See, Madam President, before we get started with the rest of the items on the agenda, can I share a little story about my experience working at Waterworld on Friday?
Yes, please.
Okay. So Friday, I volunteered at Waterworld, open to close. And it was 100 degrees on Friday, but the team kept me hydrated. Just a couple observations I had was, when the park opened at 11 in the morning, Bob was at the front gate welcoming people into the park, which I thought was just great, and I'm sure they appreciated it. I first started out working the security area and got understanding of how the security works on the park and screening and so on. And the parents were very understanding when they accidentally brought in prohibitive items to the plant, into the park. And the staff explained why they couldn't bring in alcohol and glass containers and so on. And the parents would bring this stuff back to their car and then come back in and so on. So security worked very well, and I appreciated it. Then I got to work the small slides where the little kids just had so much fun. They could not go down that slide fast enough, get out of the pool, run up the stairs, and go down again. The smiles on their faces, the excitement they had, I mean, that's what a water park's for and Highland Hills is for. Then the afternoon, I was the tube guy. I got to manage the tubes at the tower up there. And there I got to see adults going down the green tube and the blue tube with their families, and the kids screaming and the adults screaming as they were having so much fun enjoying the water park on Friday afternoon. Now I'm going to get choked up on this other part. So there was a family that had a disabled son. He was physically challenged and couldn't get up the stairs, up this tower. And his father carried him up those stairs so he could experience going down the tube and rides. And to me, that's what shows what family's about and what this park is about, making sure all people can experience the joy and just the excitement of riding down and enjoying the rides. And then I saw compassion from one of the lifeguards. The whistle had blown. It was past 4 o'clock. Everybody was supposed to be out of the pool. But that family was walking down the small little slides. And the dad asked if he could take his son down those slides. And the lifeguard said yes. And so that child got one last ride down the slides for the end of the day. So to me, Waterworld is about providing experiences to families, to children that they'll never forget the rest of their life. So sorry I got choked up about that last part, but that's when you see things like that. It shows you the strength of family, the strength of the staff here, and the importance of Highland Hills in providing experiences to everybody, no matter where in Highland Hills Park it is, whether it's the golf courses, the parks, the gymnastics center. You know, I've been over there watching the kids just having so much fun. So that's what Highland Hills is about. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. That's going to make being here tonight easier. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the purchase of the Farmers Hyland Canal water shares.
Madam Chair?
I think Yvonne has something to mention about this.
Yes, thank you. So we're going to ask that is pulled from the agenda this evening. We are having last-minute pricing discussions with the seller, so we will bring that back to the September board meeting agenda, please.
Thank you. We're pulling that from the agenda. The next item on the agenda is the Surgeon General Report on Social Connection.
Margaret,
Mr.
thank
Blair,
you.
would you like to present this item?
Yes, I would, thank you. For those of you who know, I was the one that requested a special meeting. It was approved. The attorney said that that was within the rights of individual board directors, so I appreciate that. I also want to appreciate or thank my fellow board directors for attending tonight. We all have free will, and you didn't have to. You might have thought you had to, but you didn't. And so I appreciate you all coming. I think that's really important. Before we get started, I have provided everybody sticky notes. So if you could please, I have planned a couple activities for us. They're protocols. They're designed to keep things respectful, courteous, open, and encouraging listening and kindness. So before we get started with that, the first activity is, and you're not going to share this with anybody, so you can write whatever you want. Some people like protocols. Some people can't stand them. So if you're one of the people that can't stand them, write down, I can't stand protocols. If you're the people that like them, say, I'm kind of curious. But write down anything and everything that might be getting in your way of being fully present or participating. So you want to write anything down you think. This will not be shared. You can be saying, I'm worried about my dog. I'm worried about my work. I'm worried about a family member, whatever it might be. You can write down you don't want to be here. You'd rather be somewhere else. You can write down whatever it is that might be keeping you from being fully engaged. So we'll take about 2 minutes for you to write down what's keeping you from, or might be keeping you from being engaged. If you're done with that, if you could please take it out, fold it up, put it away, so that those are not in your way of being fully present. Before we get started with some of the protocols, I also have written down the purpose, which fits what Margaret read, but I want to also post it up. Not sure where this is going to be best to be seen, but we'll find some place. So the purpose, as I see it, as the person who called the special meeting, is to really start to rebuild trust among board and the community by listening, sharing, and seeking to understand. So I'm asking everybody on the board to be fully present, to be open, to have a growth mindset, to be respectful, to be engaged, and to come to this meeting, and I would suggest every meeting, coming with your whole heart. When you come with your whole heart, things can change. It's been 6 years since I've had to do this type of thing, so be gentle. We're going to start with, I'm going to ask my fellow board directors to read the board norms in the back of your packet. Just read them to yourself. You don't need to read them out loud. But take a couple minutes to read them.
I read them before the meeting.
We'll give time for anybody else. Looks like everybody's ready. So I just want to highlight a couple, especially grace. I think we need to treat everybody with grace tonight. And then, once again, listen, don't interrupt, wait your turn, and share your thinking. So with that, we'll get started.
Warren, can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
Are you still on the Surgeon General's general report on social connection?
Getting there. There's the review the norms. So that one's done. And now, the Surgeon General report. It's hard to go through a bunch of research as a group. So I'm going to request that we have different sections where we're going to read and highlight your section. So you're going to, and there's highlighters over here. If you didn't bring any highlighters, I brought some. So you can highlight your packet. So all of us are going to read page 4. We're going to keep in mind key ideas and concepts. Then I need a volunteer, or you can be voluntold, is what my dad would do. Someone for section 1, which is pages 8 to 15. Section 2 would be pages 16 to 25. Pages 3, 26 to 34. Pages 4, 36 to 42. And person 5, 45 to 49. All pick last.
My preference would be that you would read them all.
We don't have time for that.
I don't understand.
So you're going to read your section. You're going to highlight the key ideas and concepts that you read about, and then we're going to present out that. So while you're reading one of the sections, other people will be reading their section.
I thought you were giving a presentation.
This is a protocol for how you look at research and how we all engage in that discussion. This is about us working together.
Would this be more appropriate in a study session?
We're here tonight.
I'm like Danny. I thought you were going to give present on this discussion item.
Say, Warren, may I suggest, page 62 focuses on what community-based organizations can do. And I would kind of view Highland Hills as a community-based organization. Would it be a compromise to focus on that page in those recommendations?
I don't think so. I think there's some really good information that we need to talk about in the entire report. If you want me to go through all the pages and report out what I find is the hardest or the key concepts and ideas, we're going to be here a lot longer. This is a protocol that when there's a lot of research or a lot of information that people do together often, and it keeps everybody on track.
I think if we're going to modify the format of our board procedures and bylaws using a different protocol, that's not something that was discussed as the special meeting.
I disagree. I have been open and honest about using protocols for our discussions tonight.
Are you assigning us these pages? I guess I don't understand who gets what.
I'd prefer for you to select which one you'd like to focus on. It'll take you probably 10 minutes to read your section, to highlight the information that you think is the key concepts or priorities, and then we would share that out.
I would like a recommendation, or I would suggest that you can either give us a high-level overview of it, or we table this type of protocol for a different study session, and we take it up in that manner where we're all prepared to do that. I don't think any of us are prepared right now to change the protocol of the existing board bylaws and procedures and how we're proceeding.
Margaret, this is a special meeting that I called, and I was very clear that it would not follow the typical format of a board meeting, and that this is how we can demonstrate to our community, and I'm glad that they are here to see who wants to engage and who doesn't. This is a very simple thing. You read your pages, you write down, you highlight the key ideas and concepts, and then we talk about it openly and with respect.
Ellison, I think that you sent out to the board what the procedures are for a special meeting and how they relate to this special meeting. How are we changing or modifying from that protocol with this approach? And does that require board action?
So the board operations manual says the board generally follows Robert's Rules of Order or procedures otherwise established by the chair, but Warren's suggesting something different here, so the board can vote on whether you want to do what Warren's suggesting. That would be the path forward.
Okay.
I just want to respectfully say that this was sent to us ahead of time. I know that I've read it. I agree with everything in it. That's one of the reasons that I'm here. I'm not really sure how detailed we need to go into this.
I would also like to say that I've read the report. I think it has very good recommendations. I support what's in the report, and I think that the recommendations that are set forth are good for all the residents in our community.
I would have to agree with Danny and Margaret because I too read the report, and I think we're all here and agree with this report. There's nothing here that says that we don't agree with the Surgeon General on, the loneliness and isolation. I do believe we're in agreement with this.
Warren, is there something in particular that you would like to go over that you think that the board isn't thinking about enough?
I would like to hear the board's thoughts on what the Surgeon General is saying about the importance of social isolation and connection. And I'm not hearing that yet in depth, just general agreement. So is there something in depth that you folks would like to share about the report that maybe caught your attention, or is a key component or a priority for social connection, and how it works with our work?
Well, why don't we look at page 62? What community-based organizations can do. And I'll just kind of start reading here. Community-based.
Turn on your mic, please.
Community-based organizations include, but are not limited to, membership-based organizations, civic groups, arts and education programs, faith-based organizations, direct service providers, and youth-led organizations. Regardless of whether the mission of the community-based organization is focused on social connection, every organization can promote stronger social connection. The bullet points that follow that opening paragraph. Create opportunities and spaces for inclusive social connection and establish programs that foster positive and safe relationships, including among individuals of different ages, backgrounds, viewpoints, and life experiences. Next bullet point, embed social connection in internal policies, practices, programs, and evaluations. Next bullet point, actively seek and build partnerships. Again, partnerships with other community institutions, in brackets, schools, health organizations, workplaces, close bracket, to support those experiencing loneliness and social isolation, and to create a culture of connection in the broader community. Next bullet point, advance public education awareness efforts to introduce and elevate the topic of social connection and disconnection among community members. Next bullet point, create and provide education, resources, and supporting programs. Again, provide education, resources, and supporting programs for community members and key populations such as parents, youth, and at-risk populations. Those could include community-wide social events, volunteering, community service activities, network building, professional development, and organization opportunities for involvement by the community. And final bullet point, foster a culture of connection in the broader community by highlighting examples of healthy social connection and leading by example. Again, Highland Hills has assets that can be used to build social connection, whether it's at a park, whether it's a golf course, whether it's Water World, whether it's at a fitness center, an ice arena. All the assets that Highland Hills has revolve around building social connection and experiences for those who participate.
And after reviewing the report, I would recommend that staff look at the report too and see what they can garner from the report to bolster their programs and actively address some of the concerns in the report.
So it's pretty clear that the protocols that I've worked really hard on the last couple weeks, days, hours I've spent putting together protocols are not going to be used. And I was hoping that tonight would be about rebuilding trust and being able to work together and try some protocols and hopefully rebuild some trust between us and with our community.
See, Warren, I view what you had were assignments, and I've been more than happy if I had advance notice. Hey, Mike, can you read these sections and then present on them? More than happy to do that, but you didn't give me advance notice. And that's all we're struggling with here is I like being prepared for meetings, and
Mike, I understand that, but that's not what this type of protocol is. It's a protocol that's used on a lot of different research-based programs, and I was going to give you the time at this meeting to read your section to be fully prepared. That's how this protocol works. Clearly, it's not a protocol that I'm assuming this board doesn't want to do.
well, no, it's a protocol that I've never had experience with, and so, again, just, I like being prepared for things ahead of time. That's all.
Well, I did let everybody know we would be using protocols. There are a variety of different protocols, and my guess is that many of you are not familiar with the use of protocols, but they are very effective in getting people to rebuild trust and connect, particularly with each other and with our community. So I'm gonna let that go for a second, and since Mike, thank you for reading that, but I think it's really important for our public to hear the letter from the Surgeon General, page 4. So I will read that. When I first took office as a Surgeon General in 2014, I didn't view loneliness as a public health concern. But that was before I embarked on a cross-country listening tour where I heard stories from my fellow Americans that surprised me. People began to tell me that they felt isolated, invisible, and insignificant, even when they couldn't put their finger on the word lonely. Time and time again, people of all ages and socioeconomic backgrounds from every corner of the country would tell me, I have to shoulder all of life's burdens by myself. Or if I disappear tomorrow, no one will even notice. It was a light bulb moment for me. Social disconnection was far more common than I had realized. In the scientific literature, I found confirmation of what I was hearing. In recent years, about 1 in 2 adults in America reported experiencing loneliness, and that was before the COVID-19 pandemic cut off so many of us from friends, loved ones, and support systems, exacerbating loneliness and isolation. Loneliness is far more than just a bad feeling. It harms both individual and societal health. It is associated with greater risk of cardiovascular disease, dementia, stroke, depression, anxiety, and premature death. The mortality impact of being socially disconnected is similar to that caused by smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day, or even greater than that associated with obesity and physical inactivity. And the harmful consequences of a society that lacks social connection can be felt in our schools, workplaces, and civic organizations, where performance, productivity, and engagement are diminished. Given the profound consequences of loneliness and isolation, we have an opportunity and an obligation to make the same investments in addressing social connection that we have made in addressing tobacco use, obesity, and the addiction crisis. The Surgeon General's advisory shows us how to build more connected lives and a more connected society. If we fail to do so, we will pay an ever-increasing price in the form of our individual and collective health and well-being, and we will continue to splinter and divide until we can no longer stand as a community or a country. Instead of coming together to take on the great challenges before us, we will further retreat to our corners, angry, sick, and alone. We are called to build an environment, a movement to mend the social fabric of our nation. It will take all of us, individuals and families, schools and workplaces, healthcare and public health systems, technology companies, governments, faith organizations, and communities, working together to destigmatize loneliness and change our culture and policy response to it. It will require reimagining the structures, policies, and programs that shape a community to best support the development of healthy relationships. Each of us can start now, in our own lives, by strengthening our connections and relationships. Our individual relationships are an untapped resource, a source of healing hiding in plain sight. They can help us live healthier, more productive, and more fulfilled lives. Answer that phone call from a friend. Make time to share a meal. Listen without distraction of your phone. Perform an act of service. Express yourself authentically. The keys to human connection are simple, but extraordinarily powerful. Loneliness and isolation represent profound threats to our health and well-being, but we have the power to respond. By taking small steps every day to strengthen our relationship, and by supporting community efforts to rebuild social connection, we can rise to meet this moment together. We can build lives and communities that are healthier and happier, and we can assure our country and the world are better poised than ever to take on the challenges that lay ahead. Our future depends on what we do. Signed by the Surgeon General. So Margaret, I'd recommend that you vote on not participating in the protocol.
I don't understand what the recommendation is.
You said that it's, Allison said that we could, the board could vote on whether we participate in this protocol or not. And so I would like to put that on record of which people would like to participate in protocols and which ones would not.
Protocols or this specific protocol?
This specific protocol, I have several others.
I'm not opposed to participating in any protocol. And I think we should do it in a special meeting or a study session.
Margaret, I've tried to have this conversation in study sessions, and it has never taken place. Hence my request for a special meeting. I was open and honest in everything that I wanted to do at this special meeting, and to hear you want to table it or move it to a study session, to me is disappointing.
I think one of our board norms is that we act collectively as a board. And so it's not a single board member that makes a decision, but the entire board. And so I would request that we gather the opinions of all the board members, not just me.
That's why I asked for a vote of the board.
So I think, would you like to propose a motion then, Warren?
Yeah, I would like to propose a motion that goes along with my purpose, that the board will participate in the protocols so that we can demonstrate to our public and each other that we can trust each other and rebuild our trust and rebuild our connections. Goes back to the purpose that was presented.
Can I ask that, is this going, by doing this exercise, that this is going to help? Because we have had a protocol, someone come in to tell us about board interaction and grace and how to interact, and from that meeting, I have not seen that change.
I don't know what that has to do with this protocol.
Well, you're talking about the purpose and how we're going to treat each other respectively and go through these protocols to rebuild relationships, but we've done that before, and I haven't seen that happen since we had an exercise in that.
This is specifically for tonight.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, Warren, I think what you're asking is, can we pause this meeting for 20 minutes so each of us can read the sections and get prepared to present them?
Correct.
Okay.
Or the other thing, so the motion on the floor, again, can someone, do you have that, Ellison? Can we reread that? What is your motion? I didn't write it down.
Well, let's make this simple. We'll take a 20-minute recess for each board member to review the sections of the report, and then we'll reconvene the meeting.
Are we going to do this for every section? Because if that's the case, it wasn't my understanding. If that's the case, we're changing the protocol for this meeting. And I think we have an agenda item specifically for this, and it's agenda item number 11, modified final word protocol for board meetings. And that's where we would discuss and do this.
That's a different type of protocol. I'm not sure that you've ever had that final word protocol, but it is a different protocol entirely. So Mike is right. What I have requested is that people take, and I don't think it'll take 20 minutes, Mike. I think it would take 10 minutes for people to read those sections. If they pick a section, they have pages 8 to 15. It's a lot of blank spaces on those pages. There's a lot of graphs. There's a lot of different things. You highlight what you think is important, and then you share that out as a group. We all share out our section. It goes very quickly.
Warren, one of the things that you said that's important is that we rebuild trust. And what I feel like now, because this information wasn't shared with us, is that this has been sprung on us, and we haven't had the proper time to consider it. And you're asking us to make decisions without having to have information or deliberation or thought about that. And so instead of rebuilding trust, it is eroding trust. And what I would ask is, I'm not opposed to this. I understand that you spend a lot of time, but I would like to do this in a study session where we can change the format. It's much more free-flowing, and we can learn and discuss this. I don't think the special meeting, which this changing protocols wasn't the stated purpose of the special meeting, is the most effective way to do this.
Margaret, you and I are going to disagree on that one. I was very clear on the purpose of the meeting, purpose of the special meeting. It was called by me. I do believe that if any of our directors would like to call a special meeting, they need to ask, state the purpose, the date and time and purpose. I have done that. I think that if you call a special meeting, you should be able to run that special meeting. That's what I'm trying to do, is have the board engage in protocols that will help us have productive conversations. So if you don't think that's the right thing to do, I had sent you all the information I had. I didn't get any questions except what was the modified final word. And I have said throughout this whole process of setting up this special meeting that we would be doing protocols. So that's open and honest and out and right there where it needs to be.
Ellison, can I ask a favor of you? I know that you had sent out, when we were discussing what is the process for the special meeting, you had sent out to all the directors what the stated procedures were, and I don't recall that any of this was part of the stated procedures. And could you refresh our memory as to what the stated procedures for special meetings are that you sent out to us?
They're the same as regular meetings. So the statutes allow any director to call a special meeting, which Director Blair's done. And then your bylaws provide that the president shall preside at all meetings. So again, this is really up to a board vote on whether or not you want to adopt this or use this protocol as Director Blair is suggesting.
So I'm going to propose a motion that we table the use of different protocols for this meeting, and we do it at a separate meeting in a study session soon, within a couple of weeks, so that we can learn about this and be respectful of the time that Warren has put into this and do that then. Mm-hmm. And so do I hear a second for that motion?
I second that.
Don't we have to address Warren's motion first?
It wasn't seconded. Oh. So if the motion wasn't seconded, we don't do anything, right? Yeah. So the motion on the floor now is to table this for a study session soon and move forward with the agenda of the meeting.
Again, I'm fine being here till 10 o'clock, so why don't we just...
I'm fine being here till 10 o'clock as well, but I would like to be able to prepare as board president for changes, and this is something that I'm not prepared for. So I would like to take a vote on the motion.
Mm-hmm. I would like to prepare for this too ahead of time.
If you've read the Attorney General report, like you said you have, mm-hmm. all I'm asking is that you go back into your section, reread it, review it, highlight what you think are the key points, which should be very quick and very fast. You've already read it. You've said you've already read it. You said you agree with it all. So those are this shouldn't be so outside the norm for a conversation with the board.
I have a question. Is it for this item or for all the items?
Well, I have some other protocols, and it sounds like you don't want to do any of them.
Well, I'm not prepared for any of these, and I don't think the rest of the board is prepared for this. This wasn't,
Well, they don't-
after Ellison sent out, this is the protocol for special meetings to all the board of directors. I think all of us here are working under the email that Ellison sent to us about how the standard procedures for special meetings proceed.
Margaret, it sounds like you're talking about all the board members. Maybe we should ask them. Maybe some of them are willing to do some of the other protocols. Some of the other protocols are very simple. They would take very simple, fast, quick thinking. They're not that lengthy. This is the longest one. This is the longest protocol we would have, with the exception of the final word protocol.
Is this exercise then in relation to what this whole meeting is about? I mean, is there something that, we're trying to convey to everyone that's here about the purpose of this meeting?
I think we've received public comment and letters, particularly around the golf leagues, that we have said we would talk about, and this is the opportunity for us to talk about it. I don't think we've had that opportunity for us to look at each other and say, what does that public comment mean to you? What did those letters mean to you? How can this fit together as we support our community, particularly with them being healthy and engaged and to not face social isolation as it pertains to the public comment? I think our community has lost trust in us, and I would like us to build that back up.
Well, I think we have agenda item number 7 where we can address that. And so let's address it at that agenda item. So the motion on the floor right now is, does the board want to change all the protocols for this special meeting or not?
Without even knowing what they are.
Yes, without even knowing what they are and not being able to prepare for them, yes.
Can you explain how that
And-
builds trust for our community?
And this is your protocol, so I can't explain that because I don't know them, because they haven't been shared previously, so I can't. And
They-
so,
Margaret, they
may I
have to do it-
please finish my statement, Director Blair? And so, the motion is to table this for a study session in the future. So it's not to not learn about it. It's to be able to prepare and learn about it at a different meeting.
So I've sent all the agenda items. The protocol has to do with each individual agenda item. It's not a surprise. It's not something that you were not aware of. The agenda items, the protocols relate to each agenda item. There's not a special surprise one. They all are related to that agenda and what was presented.
Is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor?
I'm not clear to what the motion is anymore.
So I think the motion is to use or learn about the protocols that are changing the format of the stated procedure of our meeting at a different study session, at a study session in the future.
Yes?
Is that
That was my understanding of the motion.
Okay.
Table it until a study session.
Everyone in favor of the motion, say aye.
Allison, is that for the entire presentation that I worked hard on to prepare?
My understanding of this motion was that it was for all the protocols that you might be proposing for tonight.
So to not
Yeah.
use the protocols and continue with the agenda, or to use or to kind of end the meeting?
Well, I'll turn it back to the chair because she made the motion.
Oh, I don't think end the meeting. I would welcome your comments and discussion and go through the items, and I look forward to what you have to say.
I do as well. I'm comfortable with a presentation and discussion, open.
So I'm not going to be able to do in a study session, I'm not going to be able to walk each and every one of you through what those protocols are before that meeting. That's what the meeting is for, is to use the protocols to help get the thinking out in a respectful and courteous manner. So I won't be able to do that unless we do the protocols.
I think that we can be respectful and courteous without a protocol.
Again, we're all here tonight. Our, cons- our members of the community are here, staff's here. So let's just go through Warren's proposal and the way he'd like to present the information, because we spent more than 15 minutes already. We could have gone through this stuff already, so. So either vote on the motion or withdraw it, please.
What I'd like to amend my proposal and say, let's just vote on it for each item as we go through it. So right now, the way that you want to go through this is something that we could do at a study session, and we'll table this one for the Surgeon General, and the next motion, or the next topic that we come through, we can consider it at that time. Does that make sense, Allison, what I'm saying?
Yes, you'll take each protocol case by case, item by
Yes.
item.
Yeah, and so I think the volume in the Surgeon General's report is robust enough to require a study session, and so let's look at it at that in a study session. So that's what I would say, is just that item.
So you have to withdraw your original motion?
No, I amended it.
Just say I move to amend. my
I move to
motion
amend
by-
my original motion to that. All those in favor of having a,
Has it been seconded yet?
Danny
I'll
second?
re-second.
All those in favor of having a special study session to go through the Surgeon General report as Warren proposes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion
You
passes.
need to call the nays.
Call the nays.
No.
No.
Just get through it.
Let's just get through it. Let's go to the next item. The next item is the resolution designating July as July as Parks and Recreation Month discussion item.
Well, let's see if you like this one better. So this protocol, you have seen the the National Parks and Recreation resolution for Parks and Rec Month. And I have dots for you and I will give you each 4 dots, and you come up and put those on your, you can put all 4 on one line, you can put 1 on one line, you can put none of them on one line, but you come up and vote with your dots. Which ones of these are most important to you?
You said 1?
You can put them all, you use all 4,
Oh,
so use all 4 and put them on the ones you think are the most important. You can split them up, you can put them all in the same line, you can do whatever you want with them. But you have to spend them.
Do you have 9 of them there, Warren, listed? 9 arrows?
I do not. Some of them are just whereas Hyland Hills Park and Rec District, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's what the first whereas doesn't count, and then the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 should have arrows. Because the one after that is then, whereas the U.S. House of Representatives.
Yeah, I have 7 arrows, so you can put them wherever you want.
Which ones are missing?
7, 8, 9, there's 9.
right. So 9.
I need 6 dots.
You only get 4.
I'll sell you 2.
Huh?
I'll sell you 2.
Don't cut them.
Oh,
Okay, that's got the same.
so 1, 3, 7, and 9.
Mike, would you mind staying there for a second?
Get down there.
Would you let us know which ones were picked the most, how many were picked, and then second most, and if there's a tie, just to know what we prioritize.
Okay, so that first place is, whereas Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being and alleviating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And then we have a tie on second place. First one being, whereas Parks and Recreation promotes health and wellness, promoting the physical and mental health of people who live near parks. Other one was, Parks and Recreation is fundamental to the environmental well-being of the community. And then this, trying to think golf scoring. First, you have to, fourth place is, whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by promoting space for outdoor sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. With just 2 votes was Parks and Recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our communities and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And 1 vote was Park and Recreation program and education activities such as out of school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development. And the last one being Parks and Recreation increases the community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction.
Thank you, Mike. I'd like to ask the board if they have any other comment on what their choices were, what's important to them.
We heard my comments about water worlds. So,
I think Hyland Hills does a darn good job with engaging the community and getting their opinions and doing what's right and what's best for everyone. And we don't, it's for everyone, not just a select group of people, but Hyland Hills has always, I've lived in this district my whole life. I've been engaged in sports, and I do believe that they do their best, and they do the best at including everyone and everything, and their opinion matters.
I would echo what Lori says. I think Hyland Hills has done an exceptional job of especially, and is starting to focus again on our lower income areas and developing recreation programming, so those less affluent areas in in the Hyland Hills district can benefit from the resources that Hyland Hills has to offer. And they do a very good job of allocating the resources amongst all the residents of the district. Are there any other discussion items related to this agenda item?
Thanks for playing along.
Okay. The next item is correspondence and public comments to the board, discussion item.
So Margaret, in your packet is a variety of letters that the board has received from the golf leagues as well as other citizens. If you'd like to take a moment to review those, everybody's read them, I'm sure. But we've never had a conversation about what do they mean. And then at the last board meeting on August 11th, we had probably 20-plus people come up and make public comment, of which we never summarized their comments to us, and we've never had a chance to speak about those comments. So now that's what this one is about. So the protocol is probably more straightforward. Take a couple minutes, you've got a notepad, and you can write down what overall impressions of the letters and the public comment that we've had.
Warren, you couldn't have set me up better because I've spent an enormous amount of time going through all of the public comments, starting back from last year. And upon reflecting and reviewing public correspondence and comments, it's apparent that there is misinformation being circulated about the board's intention, and there is perception that the board has not performed proper due diligence and/or has shunned its responsibility as it relates to the golf course and to the golf leagues.
Margaret, do you want to give the rest of us time to review those before you give your summary?
Yes, if you think that would be best, I'm agreeable to that.
That's what I originally requested.
All right, is the rest of the board, do they want me to pause or move forward? Okay, I'm going to continue. Since last year, the board has discussed numerous aspects of golf course operations and/or the golf leagues. This issue has been discussed in some form at every public meeting held this year, except for the February 2026 meeting. Here are my board reports for all of the meetings thus far. All of these Post-it notice relate to the discussions that we've had about golf course operations and golf leagues. It shows where the board has reviewed and discussed player passes, golf leagues, golf course capital plans, tee times used by golf leagues, tournaments, greens fee pricing, staff recommendations, staff recap of meetings held with golf league leadership, and many other topics, many other items related to this topic. To date, a supermajority of the board has supported a couple of the changes related to golf course operations. These decisions were made after reviewing pertinent information. The board supported the changes proposed by staff to player passes offered at the golf course. We adopted golf course tee time reservation and no-show policy, and we supported a $26 million capital investment in the golf course facilities over the next 10 years. In December, the board was made aware of the very large discounts being provided to non-residents via the Player Pass program. All the while golf course financials showed golf course operations generating a deficit of $1.2 million over the last 5 years. A supermajority of the board agreed that player passes needed to be changed, and we supported staff recommendations. This decision was made after reviewing green fees pricing data, comparing green fees with other golf courses, reviewing golf course financials, along with other pertinent information. The same deliberative process took place for the golf course tee times and no-show reservation policy. After reviewing the pertinent information and in consideration of suggestions from the golfing league leadership, a supermajority of the board approved the adoption of a golf course tee time and no-show reservation policy. Year to date, this policy has improved tee sheet utilization as well as bringing in lost revenue of almost $35,000.
Margaret, may I pause you for a second?
No, I would ask that you don't interrupt me. If you just hold on,
This
then you
This
can.
agenda item is about the public comment and the letters that we received, and not about a history of what's happened in the past.
Yes, and I'm summarizing this, and I would appreciate the opportunity to finish. Through this process, the board became aware that a significant number of prime tee times have been allocated in advance to the golfing leagues, substantially limiting the amount of prime tee times available to the general public, including to the general public. The board asked staff to remedy this imbalance. The board's goal is not to eliminate the golf clubs, but to recalibrate the current tee time allocation mix so that residents and non-residents that are not members of golfing leagues have more access to the prime tee times. We asked staff to figure out how do we fairly share this limited resource. Staff is working on this board request and has provided updates to the board on its progress. Staff has not made final recommendations to the board. Our request is to let staff do their job, use their expertise, and come back to the board with recommendations. I have full confidence that the staff will provide recommendations that act in the best interest of the district as a whole. And I've read all the comments, and I understand the challenges that it presents and how important the golf leagues are to certain members in our community, and that's not lost on me. And that's not, our goal is not to get rid of them. Our goal is to share the resources of the golf course.
I'd like to address the correspondence that we've received, and believe me, it takes time and energy to write a letter, good or bad, and I'm one of those letter writers. The email threads that were going back and forth included, I assume, all the golfers. It included the staff, the golf course staff. It included Yvonne and the board of directors. But I'm not so sure that at the end of these threads that it was realized how many people were on this thread and what was said. And it concerns me with the trust that the president of the 18-hole league had praised for the letter that the president of the 9-hole league had written. And one of the board of directors replied to this email with an unusual response that drinks were at her house in a couple weeks. And I didn't know, were we celebrating already? And are all of us invited to have drinks? I wasn't quite sure what if that was intended for everybody. And I'm not suggesting that attending or being invited to a social gathering in itself is inappropriate. However, when considered alongside the board members' active involvement in advocating for golf leagues, it added to the appearance of a close personal relationship and raises a reasonable question about whether the board member is acting as a district representative or an advocate for the golf leagues. We have an obligation as a board to ensure that all district members and user groups are treated fairly and that the district resources, including tee times, facility access, are managed according to objective policies and the best interest of the district. I believe we need to be particularly careful about situations where a board member becomes personally involved in advocating for one specific group. Even when there is no improper intent, the appearance of preferential treatment can undermine the confidence in the board and in the decisions we make. I am raising this issue because I believe we should establish a clear expectation that board members, when acting in a capacity as board members, remain focused on the interest of the district as a whole. Personal relationships and individual interests should not create the perception that one group is receiving special representation or preferential treatment. This is not about criticizing an individual, but about maintaining appropriate boundaries when personal relationships and our responsibilities as elected and appointed representatives of the district.
Are there any other comments regarding correspondence, public comments to the board from the remaining board members?
Again, based on what, Warren's request here was, in reviewing the correspondence, the presentations from individuals that came up to the podium and so on, golf leagues and access to tee times for all is important. And then as I stated during the last board meeting, staff is working on a policy for 2026 to share the tee times in a fair manner. So, sorry, 2027. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others?
I understand that people are unhappy, and I am also waiting for recommendations from staff.
So Margaret, now I'll get a chance to weigh in. First off, I think that a couple things were missed. We had a nice letter from someone that talked about the impact of ladies and their retirement earnings are much less than men. And there was a misunderstanding about whether a $10 fee would be charged or a $5 fee would be charged. The reason for that misunderstanding, in my opinion, was because it was originally presented as a contract, that this is what's going to happen. I understand that that's been pulled. I don't think everybody in the leagues knew that. So we got a lot of letters that were talking about the $10 and the $5. Don't know if that's still on the table, but we have not yet quite talked about that. Another part of it is that many have written and spoken here about how can we get this process back on track. If this process is confusing or it hasn't met the needs of the district nor the golfing community, there's been a request by several letter writers as well as several speakers to have a community engagement facilitator to take this over, to rebuild the confidence in the district, and to rebuild the whole process and start over by having meetings with us, with the board, with the leagues, with the district, and kind of backing up the track a little bit so we can show that we're listening to our community and moving forward in a respectful manner. Lori, you and I have a disagreement about what you consider my special interest. You've shared with me before that you have a special interest in being able to play on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Even though I've said you could play before or after the ladies' 9. All summer long, there's been tee times open that you could play. Your comment then is, and I asked you if you wanted to join the ladies' league. You didn't want to join. You didn't want to play after because they take too long, but you didn't want to wait. Right now, you could get tee times at 8:50, 9, 9:10, 9:20, 9:30, 9:40 after the leagues play. That's, if you wanted to wait a little bit longer until the course clears, that's always a possibility as well. So no one's ever asked me about how this came about. So let me say that my constituents have come to me and asked me what's going on. I am elected by the public. I need to listen to them and talk with them, and I have done that. And I would encourage all of our board directors, when a community member comes to you and asks to speak to you, that you be willing to do that. I'm very concerned that perhaps my email has been hacked, or somebody is getting into my email, because some comments have been made that my emails who have gone specifically to individual people have now been either researched or checked, or somehow somebody's finding out about my emails. That's disconcerting, and I need to think about that further before I comment. But we also have, so the question that I've heard from our community is, what about a special facilitator, a special engagement facilitator? Now, I can see the body language and the posture and what's going on here. So is that something that this board would like to make a recommendation? Not that we make the decision, but would we like to make a recommendation that maybe we should, since there is so much misinformation out there and the process has spiraled somewhat out of control, we have started to build mistrust amongst our community members and with each other, that should this process start over again. And we also went to a study session where we were presented with a 2027 and a 2028 plan. We were all asked to meet individually to talk about that if needed. I met with Alan and Yvonne and went through the plan. And it was quite clear that if that plan was implemented, maybe we as a district didn't say that this is going to be the end of the golf leagues. But if those recommendations in that study session for 2027 and in 2028 were put into place, the golf leagues would have to say, we're not interested in that. So they would self-end their league. That has never been spoken about in here. I spoke to Alan and Yvonne about it, have not had a chance to speak to the board. So that's why I have presented a compromise league proposal that's also part of a protocol that I'm not sure people want to engage in, but I think we should. So we have a disconnect between the letters that we're hearing, the public comment that we've gotten, and how we can move forward in a manner that's going to fit. I do know that there's going to be another meeting now with the presidents of the individual boards, separately and individually. Those are coming up. I would be hopeful that some of this information would go into that decision-making process, particularly about the social connections and how important it is to the league. Because when I read those letters, just like Mike got emotional about his work on Friday, and I know these people, I see them, they're not just numbers on a tee sheet to me, they are people. And they were really clear in their letters how important the leagues were for their social connection and their health. And I think that's something that we really need to be thoughtful of as we look at what are we going to ask them to do. If we're going to send the seniors out in the afternoon, are we going to send the ladies out in the afternoon? We don't know that. It sure would be nice to know that. Maybe that's not even on the thought process. But we as a board don't know that. We don't know what the thought process is. So certainly we can wait and find out, are the leagues going to be moved? Is the men's league going to be put somewhere else? We don't know that. And so that's what we had hoped for. And that would be the next agenda item, is the draft compromise that I talked about.
I think it's premature to talk about any of this until we get staff recommendations back. We haven't given staff the opportunity to finish their work and/or finish their meetings with the golf leagues and what they proposed.
Margaret, you may be right on that, but based upon the information that we had at the one study session about the 2027 and 2028 plan, that was presented to us. We have not discussed it. And so if that's off the table, I don't know that.
But they're still meeting with the league presidents, aren't they?
Yes,
Yeah, we're not invited to attend either.
that's okay.
Yes.
For you, it's okay.
I think we need to let staff proceed with their work and work with the golf leagues and come back to the board with their final with their recommendations. And then at that time, we have discussions.
They might come back with something that is better than what we can come up with.
Yeah, that's absolutely my hope, is that it would be a recommendation that would honor the social connections of the leagues, longstanding leagues, that these people have gotten together for many, many years. They've developed fantastic relationships, and it's that type of programming that I would be quite frustrated with if we were to remove that programming from our citizens. So maybe this is premature to bring up and talk about, but there's been so much talk behind me and around me that I have not been a part of, and I can't represent my community.
There's one thing that I would like to do, because in the correspondence, it was clear that there was some misinformation that was floating around. And so Executive Director Fishbach sent out a letter to all of the golf league presidents addressing this misinformation. And the 4 items that she listed is that the misinformation that's been shared is that the district is going to eliminate golf clubs. No decision has been made on golf clubs. The district wants to eliminate club play in order to book 2 tournaments. That's untrue as well. We were at 2 meetings where Executive Director in study sessions, Fishbach, said to the board, this is not an effort to increase tournaments. The district wants to change tournament format to a scramble event. I don't know where that came from. We've never talked about that. And out of all this correspondence here, I'm not quite sure I know what a scramble event is, but I do know all of the golfing league schedules.
Margaret, I never read any of the letters.
I'm not finished. Can you please give me a minute? And then the other one was the executive director has already made a decision. And that's not true, because the board hasn't made a decision. And so I would ask that we let staff do their job, use their expertise, come back to the board with recommendations, and then at that time, we can consider if they might come back with something better, and we consider any changes as a board we might want to come back with.
Margaret, we've decided at our last board meeting that the board has decided not to make a decision on what those are. So if the staff comes back with these are the decisions that we'd like to do with the golf leagues, and we are not supportive of that, there's nothing that we can do about it. It's not a board decision.
I don't know if that's my understanding. Is that the rest of the board's understanding?
Yvonne, is that true?
So I work at the pleasure of the board. If there is something that I am doing in my official capacity, the board has the ability to address that.
Thank you.
Then why did we vote on that resolution last meeting?
The resolution was in support of letting the district staff do their job as with regard to this matter.
With our oversight, not operational.
Madam Chair, do you mind if I chime in real quick?
Not at all.
So I believe, getting at Executive Director Fishbach's point, if the board is not satisfied with the performance of the executive director, you can manage that as a performance issue. She reports to you. Staff reports to her, she reports to you. So I think that's the distinction there. And then the other distinction too, which is pretty nuanced, is the staff, as I understand it, is looking to the board for guidance on the philosophical approach that you want for managing your facilities. So as they are bringing these matters to you, I think that's what they're looking for. So it's not so much how to do all of it, how to implement all of it, but what's the philosophy? What are the guiding principles that you want staff to use in developing these recommendations and these plans?
I think Mike summed it up really well at the last meeting. It's figure out how we fairly share resources with golf leagues and people who aren't in golf leagues. Is there any other discussion as it relates to correspondence and public comments to the board? And Ellison, thank you for chiming in. Moving to item number 8, July meeting with district staff and golf leagues. Discussion item.
I thought this was a district-guided piece there, but I'll jump in. That one's done. And I do appreciate the conversation with the board. I think it's important, especially for our community, to hear that we're actually addressing and listening to them and what they'd like to hear from us. The next one is, and guys, you've convinced me I'm giving up my protocols. Hopefully that'll make you happy. Doesn't make me happy. I work very hard on them. And I understand that I come from a different world. We do protocols all the time in education, especially in really difficult research-based conversations. My staff was 140 teachers. If we didn't use protocols, we wouldn't get through any item. So we had to use very structured protocols to be able to make a good decision. That's probably not your world, so you're not familiar with it. So I will say we're not going to do the rest of these except the conversation. The conversation is what is important. So on here, the golf leagues were presented with these goals: fair and equal access, balance in golf programs, beneficial treatment, and world-class experience. You have this in your packet a little bit deeper in that. So I'd like to talk a little bit about what does fair and equal access mean to you?
Fair and equal access to me, in regards to the golf course, is that everybody has an opportunity to play when they want to play. You know, even last week, I get up at midnight and the golf, there's not a time until 1:30 in the afternoon, and I get it. Maybe there is a tournament, but chances are, you know, it's one of the golf leagues, and in talking to my friends who are golfers and not on a league, they don't play here anymore because they can't get a tee time, so they choose to go elsewhere. And I think we're just trying to make it accessible for anybody who wants to come back here and play and have an opportunity to play, and not say that the only times available are, you know, Wednesday mornings. That's what we're trying to do, is just make our golf course accessible to everyone.
I'll say the one thing that struck me as I was going through all the information is we have golf league. If you want to play in the morning at Hyland Hills, the only day that is available to you in the morning tee times is on Wednesdays. Golf leagues play on Mondays on the Gold Course. They play on Tuesdays and Thursdays on the Gold and the Blue Course and the South Par 3. Sometimes there's tournaments on Fridays, and there's tournaments on every other Saturday or Sunday during the summer between Memorial Day and Labor Day. So that means if you're not on a golf league, the only time you can get a tee time in the morning is maybe Wednesdays and maybe Fridays. All the other times, you have to wait until later in the day. And so that the information that we've been provided, that's kind of what it shows. There's no public comment, and please refrain from outbursts.
Again, when I think of fair and equal access to district facilities, and that's, again, provide fair and equal access to district facilities, it's not an easy job for staff to try to figure out how to balance kids' little leagues, who gets access to baseball fields, who gets access to pickleball courts, who gets access to the tee times. It's a balancing act. The staff has to go and weigh each time they look at a resource and say, how do we get as many people enjoying these facilities as possible? And it's not an easy decision. I wouldn't want to be in their shoes, because you never come up with the right answer. You never make everybody happy. So again, but you know what? The team here is experts at doing this. They've been doing it for a really long time. So let's let them do their job and come up with a proposal that they believe provides fair and equal access to tee times at the golf course, just like they do on baseball fields, soccer fields, pickleball courts, and so on. They listen to the community, staff listens to the community. They have to look at the economics of all the assets, what makes the most sense, how do we balance revenue versus access, and so on. So again, let's give staff time. They've been hearing all the conversations and the feedback from the community. Let's give them a chance to do their job.
Margaret, I'm waiting for anybody else to go first.
I'm not a golfer, but I would say that all the benefits that the golf leagues get from social connection and exercise also go for people who don't belong in leagues. And we need to make sure that we share and it's fair.
Thank you. That's part of my draft compromise, is it shows where the leagues could give some. But I've also requested some data that I have been informed that unless this board, 3 members of this board would like to have this data, we won't receive, just because I requested it. If we don't have that data, how do we know we're providing free and equal access to the golf course? That data comes from outside events, or what some people call corporate events, or outside tournaments, or whatever. But they're not men's club events, they're not ladies' events, they're not seniors' events. So, would this board like to request that we get that data so we can look at it?
I would like to let staff gather the data, do their job, and come back to recommendations to us. If we have a question about it during their presentation and they can't answer your question, then maybe that's a time where we consider it.
Well, they haven't yet, even though I've requested it several times. So I think you'll be surprised to know, you won't be surprised to know that I did this, but I think you'll be surprised to know about the data. If you go on the Golf at Highland Hills website, you can go to the calendar, and there's a calendar of events that show April, May, June, July, and August. It shows what events are what. There's nothing in for September yet, because I keep looking, because I have a friend coming up from Texas that he only can play on Friday the 11th, and I'm kind of waiting to see if there's a tournament. So I've done that data, and we have outside events. Here's the data that's public source information on our own website. In May, there was 1 outside event on a Friday. There was 1 outside event on a Saturday. In June, there were 4 outside events on Friday, so that's not the men's club. There were 3 outside events on Saturday, 1 men's club event on a Saturday for all of June. And on Sunday, there were 2 men's club and 1 outside event. I think it's important data to have. In July, on Friday, there was 1 outside event and 1 men's club event in July. In Saturday, there were 2 outside events and 2 men's club events. On Sunday, there were 2 outside events and 2 men's club events. In August, on Friday, there were 4 outside events. There were only 4 Fridays. So it's not the men's club taking those tee times. On Saturday, there were 3 outside events and 2 men's club events. On Sunday, there were 3 outside events and 2 men's club events. So total, Friday, 11 outside events and 1 men's club events. Total for every Friday, 11 to 1. On Saturday and Sunday, there were 14 outside events and 14 men's club events. There were 13 weekends. So if you think the men's club is taking all the tee times on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they're not. So if we're just going to talk about the leagues and not talk about outside events, we are not opening up the tee sheet. Free and equal access.
Thank you. I don't think we put any restrictions on the proposals that staff comes back to us, so they could include or exclude outside events. We don't know to what extent that's part of their draft proposals. So again, I think it's premature to have any of these discussions until staff comes back to it. And at that point in time, I think, Warren, it would be appropriate, since you've done the research, to ask how that affects, ask staff once they've presented their recommendations to us.
I think it has to be a board request. That's what I've been told, is it has to be a board request. I don't know if the data I've pulled off of the calendar is as accurate as it might be. I like data because data is neutral. It's the judgment that you put on data that makes the decision. So once again, I'm asking this board if they would be interested in finding out how many outside events and when, and how that impacts the free and equal access. Because without that information, we are making the district is going to make the decision. We won't know if we're hitting our mark.
Again, Warren, I know it's repeating the same thing. Let's wait for staff's recommendation, and then we can ask the questions at that time of how they plan to accommodate and maximize the revenue across all players at the golf course. So let's just give staff time to work on what they think is a good proposal for clubs, for corporate events, for the general public, and so on. So,
Mike, I appreciate that. That goes to the next one, is to create balance in golf course programming that provides equitable access to individuals, golf course programs, and organized tournament events. That's all I'm asking for, is that data.
Can we request that when staff comes with its recommendations that they have data to support it?
Does that include the outside event data?
All of it.
Do we need a motion on that?
I don't know.
no,
I don't think so. Let's let staff do their job in that request and
provide their thought process on how they came to their conclusions.
Thank you.
Any other comments with regard to the July meeting with district staff and golf leagues? Hearing none, I'm going to move to the next item. And the next item is compromise golf league proposal discussion item.
Thank you, Margaret. And I had a protocol for this too, but we're going to skip it. You've seen the compromise proposal. It addresses many of the things that the district has stated as what they would like to have happen. It's working with the golf leagues to give up many of their tee times and tee time access. It presents something that's good for the men's club, which I would like to have change the name to just be the golf club. All those are in there, including the proposal that the senior league move to a different day. And I'd like to say that perhaps 20% of those outside events from the weekends are Fridays, because every Friday is taken up with an outside event. Every single one all summer. I'd like to see some of those move to the Monday, so that can open up some more tee times on Fridays and Saturdays and Sundays. In that proposal, it also talks about having the men's league, which I hope will be renamed, to continuing to be able to have some of their events in the morning and some of them in the afternoon. That I hope will be a part of the proposal that the district will bring back. I think that one of the hard parts about this, particularly for, and you saw the people here last time at the meeting, our golf league players are not necessarily young, except the men's club. So if we're going to have a proposal that they all need to go to the afternoons, that's going to be a difficult thing for them. They may not be able to move forward. I think the senior league would be, my proposal, or the draft proposal that I presented, said that if the women 18 and the women 9 can give up one of their days, that's a pretty good compromise. That opens up the tee sheets that we're thinking. It also helps keep their social isolation and connections valid and viable. It keeps them together for their health. It allows for that to happen. I think for the seniors, if the seniors are required to go to the afternoon, that's the end of the senior league. And, you know, Dan's here. He can talk to Yvonne about it at his meeting. But I think when I've sat in some of those meetings that I've been invited to, and I'm a part of these leagues, if there's no shotguns allowed and the $10 fee is charged or the $5 fee is charged, I've done the math on that. And if they charge the $10 fee to all the seniors, they could get 6 shotgun events for the same price as the outside event charge. He would be able to do that. So in my compromise proposal, it says, I hope that they will allow some shotguns, primarily, especially for the ladies. I think it's important for their kickoff tournaments, their member guests, if they have a member guest, and particularly the men's club, they have a member guest. So if you allow shotguns for 6 to 10 tournaments or less, somewhere around there, 4 for the ladies, I think those shotgun events are really, really important for building social connections. That's part of my proposal. I would encourage you to read it carefully. And my first question in the protocol was, what questions do you have about that draft compromise? So I'll wait for questions that you might have so I can hopefully answer them. Mike called me and he and I spent some time on the phone going through what it meant, because he's not a golfer.
Alan, I do have a question. This, again, it applies to everybody. Midnight is when you can get access to tee times. Can it be, I mean, I'm sound asleep at midnight. Is there any way to move it up earlier for normal people's lives?
Back when my office was over at the golf course, this came up with a lot of customers. And the overwhelming choice was to leave it alone, and I'll tell you why. Because they understood that if we went live at 6 or 8 o'clock in the morning, they would have even more competition to book those times.
Well, I was thinking more like 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock at night.
Well, same thing, same concept, right? So, there was a discussion about, well, we play here all the time. We know when they open up. We have an advantage to booking those times on the open market versus if they were released in prime time. Now, that was a discussion that we had with customers, pre-COVID, and it's only gotten worse since then. So.
Alan, thank you for that, because I would agree. There's very few of us willing to get up at 11:57 and set an alarm for 11:57 and log in and wait for it to click to 11:59 in order to get a tee time. I'm one of those people. And it allows me to take my foursome out. I play on Thursdays with a foursome. It's not in a league. It's not any of that. But without that ability, my foursome may not continue. Maybe that's not important to you guys. It's important to me. It's important to the guys I play with. It's important for their social connection and health. So I am glad we stay at 11:59.
I'm glad that we have such high demand for the golf course. Any other discussion? Hearing none, moving on to the next item. Recap of district staff presentations regarding golf course operations at study sessions and board meetings since December 9th, 2025. Yvonne, I believe this is your discussion item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm going to ask Deputy Director Owens to help me with the visuals on this. So I just I appreciate the opportunity to kind of take the board and the members of the community and the staff here back through the events of how we got to where we are today. So I just put together a brief presentation, which is kind of a summary of key events, the board discussions, and the stakeholder feedback. So this is a record of our decisions, our communications, and stakeholder feedback. This is not everything. It's not every detail. It probably lines up pretty well with your posted notes there, Margaret, but just giving everybody a recap. So this goes back to November of 2025 when we had discussions and concerns about the Black Friday pass sale. So I did present the 2026 player pass price increases to the board as a courtesy because the board had already agreed upon the new rates for the golf course. We calculated those out to the player pass. For some of the passes, it was a fairly significant increase in price, so I went ahead and sent those out to the board. So there was concerns about that, and until we could come together and have a better discussion, I made the decision to pause the sale until we could get the board together and inform everybody. Oh. Okay, go with the next one, Bob. So slide 4, we had a number of golfers that attended the December meeting. They were very frustrated that the passes were not available for the Black Friday sale. At that meeting, I did commit to all of the people in attendance that we were committed to honoring all of the past credits and continuing the discussions with the golf leagues. Next slide, Bob. So as we talked about the player passes, there were concerns about the resident prices versus the non-resident. We, of course, want to always take care of our residents who are here to serve. So we put together a program that could continue those resident player pass sales. We made some adjustments to the program, but we did go ahead and put the player pass resident discount cards on sale, extended the deadline, which would have normally been December 31st to January 31st, when it offered the extra bonus round, which we would have offered on Black Friday, and let everybody know that those passes would not be transferable going forward, and with an expiration date of December 31st of 2026. The next item was January in 2026. We had a study session with the board where we brought forth the operational priorities for the golf course. And we talked about focusing on financial sustainability, a better golfer experience, formal club relationships, fewer block tee times, broader public access, equitable treatment, and consistent price funds. So March into April, we had meetings with the golfing club presidents. So that was myself, Deputy Director Brown, and Golf General Manager Heim. We met and talked about the player passes, wanted to hear their concerns, comments, complaints, and then we talked about the broader course concerns and how we could maybe manage through more course access and making sure that everybody was treated equally via a potential club agreement. From there, at the April 14th board meeting, the club members attended and raised questions and concerns about the agreements, about the board involvement in the process, and potential changes to shotgun starts. April 14th, the board adopted a revised golf tee time reservation policy. So again, that was information gathered by the staff, presented to the board, and the board adopted that new policy. We had a study session on April 28th. I did let the board know that we had suspended our initiative on a 2026 golf agreement with all of the golfing clubs, and that we had notified all of the club presidents. So at that meeting that we had with the golfing clubs, we agreed with the club presidents that we would come back and resume the conversation in July to make no changes for the 2026 season, and come back and start having conversations in July about any potential changes for the 2027 season. Moving to July 14th. So staff, we had been tasked with coming back with a proposal, so we presented information to the board, a recommendation and a potential transition plan centered on equal access to the tee sheets and advanced bookings. Our discussion addressed the equitable treatment for all golfers, tournament pricing for preferred access, and alignment of the traditional club models with the district's mission. On July 29th, we had another meeting with all of the 5 club presidents and their associates. We presented them with the same goals that you saw Warren present this evening, and we asked them for their feedback on our goals, including improved tee sheet access. At the August 11th board meeting, the board adopted a resolution affirming the executive director's authority under the bylaws and expressing the support of the executive director's work on these golf course operations issue. At that meeting, speakers opposed changes to the existing golf club's operations, requested greater board involvement, and expressed concerns that clubs might be eliminated. I followed up on August 12th with an email to all the club presidents and asked them to share that with their clubs to correct the misinformation that had come out during the public comment section. So it brings us to today at our current status. So as you've heard many times tonight, the staff is continuing their work on this discussion and initiatives. We're meeting with the various club presidents. We had our first one this morning. We have 2 more scheduled for Thursday. We will not make any operational changes without reviewing the information with the board at a public board meeting to ensure that we have alignment with the board's broader policy direction.
Thank you. What questions does the board have? Hearing none, I'm moving to the next item on the agenda. And the item on the agenda is modified final word protocol for board meetings. This is a discussion item that was taken from the email, correspondence with Director Blair. Do you want to lead us in this, Warren?
I do. And I'm going to try to modify it even further since I know that there's not a lot of supportive protocols. The final word protocol, since this is modified, what you typically would do is you would read some research, a research-based opinion or a research document. You might do it the way I had suggested about the Surgeon General report, where you would jigsaw it and put it all together. And then a person would pick a passage in that document and highlight what they wanted to have highlighted for them, what was important to them. And then people would talk about it, and each person gets to share their opinion without being interrupted, without comment, without anything else. It's a final word. So the modification to this is taking all the information that we've shared tonight, the Surgeon General's report, the data piece, the golf course piece, the public comment, the letters that we've received. Taking all of that information in, I would like each board director to share what their final word is on this. It I don't want you to say no comment. I'd like you to really engage in this and say, this is what I've learned tonight, and this is my final word on tonight's protocol or agenda items.
Can you demonstrate? Would you do your final word so that then we know?
That's the modification, is my final words last. So I picked you first because I thought that you might want to go and share your overall thoughts, but anybody else might want to go. Or if you really want me to go, I'll go.
That would be helpful.
What about the rest of the board?
All right. I'll go. I'm happy of the people who came here because you did not get a chance to say anything tonight. You're listening to us, but know that we're listening to you as well. This takes time, and what I've learned, I know that golf is important to everyone, but you have to understand that we have a job to do, and we need to get all the information before we can make a decision, and no decisions have been made. And I just appreciate that you all give us the chance to do our jobs as well as the staff. And things are going to work out. We just have to give it time.
I'll go next. Again, I've been engaged in this process. Again, not a golf expert, but I have a lot of good common sense. And I understand scheduling from other job responsibilities and so on, and asset and resource allocation, so on. So I've been engaged with Warren, had conversations with him to learn about golf allocation, tee times. I've been in Yvonne's office, brainstorming, listening, and so on. I've been listening to the community, reading the emails. So again, when I get staff's recommendation, I have all these data points, and I'm going to say, based on the data points I have, does this recommendation pass the smell test? Does it make sense? And so.
I would say that I value public comments. I value the expertise of staff, and I would want to hear what their recommendations are, and would like to wait for those recommendations before I reach any final decisions or conclusions.
I don't have anything different to say than what's been said.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your engaging in a modified final word protocol. I think it is important that we talk with each other on many of these items to get our understandings out. Sometimes sense-making as a leader involves storytelling. Storytelling is one way to really help make a difference. Just 2 days ago, a research report came out about social isolation in young men between 25 and 35, but it also goes up to 40. It also includes women. And social isolation is increasing fairly dramatically. And I think I like to say that our health of our community members is as important or more important than complete, open, fair, and equal T-sheet access. I think we can find a way to support the leagues, support their mission, support their members, and also help free up the T-sheets. That includes the outside events. I think that needs to be also addressed as part of it. So, story one. Golfer I know goes on a trip with a couple buddies, and he goes play golf, and he's on his way back, and he's not looking good. He's not feeling good, not breathing well. The other members of the group are concerned about him. They drop him off at his house. He goes into his house, and he doesn't wake up. He was a man of about 40 years old. As that time, I was the president of the men's club. So when that happens, I call the family. Because that's one of our things, is we are a social club before we are a golf club. So I reached out to this family to see what the men's club could do for him, for the family. He had a sister that he was estranged from. His mom and dad were heartbroken, didn't know what to do, didn't know what to see or to say or how to proceed. I offered my support and the golf club support, and I asked them if they would like to come over after a shotgun tournament. Has to be a shotgun for this to work. And that the men's club would like to get on the patio and do a toast for Shane. The parents were thrilled. The mother and father said, "We never thought of that, but we would love to be there, and we would love to hear stories about our son." So we set a date, we let the men's club know, we gathered on the patio after our shotgun tournament, and members went up and talked to the family, the mom and dad. They shared stories, they did a toast for Shane, and the parents were incredibly, incredibly thankful and felt supported. That's story one. Story two. We had a person that the men's club was very familiar with that died fairly tragically. In speaking, once again, I contacted the parents, talked with them about what they might want to do to support their son. And in all their grief, what they wanted to do, what I offered them, was they could join a man and a woman, not men's club members. They could join one of our tournaments and play in the first group of a shotgun tournament and be surrounded by the love and caring of the men's club. We invited them in afterwards. We gave speeches. We talked about their son in a manner that made them feel valued and supported and protected. And we met their community need, their social connection need for them and their son. That person was Jackson Zen. I talked to Greg, and I can't think of her name right now. It was on the tip of my tongue. But the Zens were so appreciative and so thankful and so engaged that they'll never forget what the men's club did for them and for their son. As a matter of fact, they donated $20,000 to the foundation last year. They were so impressed by what the men's club did. End of story two. Story three. We had a member that was very liked, and everybody enjoyed playing with them, smile on their face all the time, played with a lot of different members, and then got sick. The members of the club would make sure that that person was supported, was provided water when they needed water, was helped in and out of the cart, was helped onto the green, was allowed to participate the best they could in those tournaments. The people who volunteered to play with him knew about his condition, and they stepped up to the plate to take care of him. That person was my brother. That's the social connection that is critical to these golf leagues. And Lori, you think it's personal? It is very personal to me. They did that for my brother and for me. 15 of the men's club members showed up to the funeral. They spoke about him. They sent cards. They gave my mother hugs. And if you're a mom and you have to bury a son, it's really hard. I can't tell you what that meant for her, for me, my sister, and my children. And that's the value of a men's club, and I would hope that we don't just look at T-access, we look at the health of all of our citizens as a priority as well. And that's my final word.
Thank you. Moving on to open board discussion. And what I think would be productive here is if we could, each one of us, participate and say, what is the issue? What are we trying to do? And Warren, like you put me on the hot seat all the time. I'm going to put you on the hot seat. What do you think the issue is?
So another modified final word.
It is.
It is, it's a final word. I think the issue is a balance between free and equal T-sheet access and building social connections. And to think that the men in the men's league don't need social connections, I think is a mistake. I think that the women and what they do in their golf leagues and how they are so socially connected that they support each other, they go to each other's funerals, they start book clubs, they play mahjong together, that to take that away from the ladies would be a giant mistake. I look at the seniors. We went to a funeral just last week of one of the seniors' father died, and I can't tell you how appreciative he was that he had a group of friends, a group of colleagues, and it wasn't about golf at that time, it was about caring for each other. The seniors do that at a very high rate. The ladies do that at a very high rate. The men's club, maybe you think that young men don't need it. They need it probably as much as anybody. So I would ask that whatever comes out, that we're able to find some type of balance between no leagues and restructured leagues, but allowing the leagues to be able to do what they do so well, and that's support each other and create a caring community for them, for that group. That's what I would hope.
Thank you. Who would like to go next?
Say, Warren, is this your presentation? It was in the board deck, but I didn't see
Yes,
this
sir.
guy.
That's from the January 2026 study session that we had.
Okay, so this goes with Yvonne's presentation.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you have the floor, Mike. What do you think the issue is? And turn on your speaker.
Again, I think I've already stated my position, so. Again, I will apply a common sense test to staff's recommendation. Taking in all the data points that I have from Warren, from my observations, from members of the community, emails from the community, and so on.
Danny? I've thought a lot about this, and I think that the issue really is that we need to figure out a more fair way to allocate prime tee times, which would include all of the information that we've discussed tonight. And I think that staff has the expertise and the knowledge to know what are the best recommendations, and consider staff recommendations first, along with all of the feedback that we've got. The other thing that I think is important, and this is unique to me, is I think whatever decisions that we make with regard to allocations and how we move forward, that we need to prioritize the long-term financial sustainability of golf course operations, so that the golf course is not just available for us and our use now, but it's available for the next generation. And that we prioritize and make our decisions so that the future viability of the golf course isn't compromised with short-term pricing decisions. Any other comments before we adjourn?
I just want to thank the board for listening, sharing their thoughts, discussing it openly. I can now, if my community members ask me, have you guys actually talked about public comment or talked about the letters? I can answer that we have. Whereas before, I wasn't so sure I could answer that way. So I want to thank you for trying one protocol, starting another one, and listening to our participating in the special meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. The one action item that we have from today's meeting is that we need to go through the Surgeon General's report at study session using a protocol.
And Margaret, I would withdraw that if everybody doesn't want to talk about it anymore.
Okay.
But let's talk to everybody. What do they think?
I'm good with that.
Are you good with that? I think everybody's good with that. So we don't have any action items now. So with that, the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.